Mr. Azrial, who's joining us in order to know more on this. Sir, thank you for speaking with us here on NDTV. The ceasefire that hasn't even stayed in place for 12 hours after Donald Trump claimed that this will be known as a 12-day war. What do you make of this, one step forward, two steps back that both sides seem to be taking?
Yes, thank you for having me. Israel is, of course, very familiar with fragile ceasefires. We've seen several ceasefires, both with Gaza and with Lebanon, over this war that didn't last, and this time a very serious violation from Iran with these two missiles fired towards Israel some 3.5 hours since this ceasefire came into force at 7 a.m. This morning. We did see some launches right after 7 a.m. as well, but Israel was ready to contain these launches. However, 3.5 hours after the ceasefire, two missiles, there's nothing to be taken as a misunderstanding here. And that is why we are getting the very harsh responses from Israel, both from the defense minister, Israel Katz, from the chief of staff, Eyal Zamir, both vowing to respond forcefully in Tehran in response to this violation of the ceasefire. Look, after 12 days of hostilities between these two countries, there was hope that this ceasefire would last. That's certainly under the agreement, or we don't know the details of this agreement, but at least under the declaration of President Donald Trump. And we did see this morning, right before this rocket fire, an official announcement by the Israeli government saying that the goals of this operation, of this war, were achieved, eliminating Iran's nuclear capabilities, much of their ballistic missile program. However, we see that the ceasefire does not last. Two missiles that were fired just an hour ago, and Israel promises to respond. What we don't know, again, is what are the conditions of the ceasefire? What did Donald Trump promise Prime Minister Netanyahu when it comes to Iran redeveloping its nuclear program?
Guy, if I can, if you can hear me at this moment, I'm standing right here in Beersheba, where, of course, that unfortunate incident where the missile at this apartment took a direct hit and 4 people died. Like you are describing, just an hour back, we are also picking up the same 2 missiles were lodged over northern Israel, and though both of them have been intercepted, but the fact is now the IDF chief has come out and said that there will be a very, very strong retaliation to this provocation. Does this mean any hope of that ceasefire is now completely over and we are once again in the escalatory ladder as far as the hostilities are concerned?
I wouldn't hurry to bury this ceasefire. However, Israel, when it comes to explain this ceasefire to its citizens with this violation, has to show that it is responding to this very serious violation. I think that in order to resolve this, we will have to see another intervention by U.S. President Donald Trump, urging both sides to stop the hostilities. And you can expect him also to support the Israeli reaction to this violation. Having said all of that, Israel does want to see the end of this escalation. Israel says it has achieved all of its goals so far over those past 12 days. Israel does not want to see a long war of attrition with ongoing missile fire towards the Israeli economy that could really cripple its economy. So Israel will be looking for some sort of a peaceful solution to this, and yet has to show to the Israeli public that it is responding to this violation, and with great force. We will have to see what sort of reaction comes out of Tehran.
You know, like you were also pointing out, and we have been seeing since morning as well, a lot of chatter where, opposition leaders and others, those who are saying that why was this ceasefire announced by United States? It should have been, clarity should have come from the government of Israel, from the Prime Minister's office. And also, is there a sense that possibly President of United States may have jumped the gun without getting into the finer details of the ceasefire agreement? He just went on and announced it hurriedly with, right now, little or zero impact on the real situation between Iran and Israel.
Look, there are quotes coming out of the cabinet meeting last night of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu telling his ministers the Iranian threat was a cancer and cancer can always come back. He's perhaps suggesting to the fact that this agreement was reached with Trump about ending the hostilities, but it's not clear whether Israel is getting any guarantees about Iran rebuilding its nuclear program, its ballistic missile program, and I think above all, also the use of its proxies against Israel, as we saw throughout these 20 months of war, both with Hamas, with Hezbollah, with the Houthis, with militias in Iraq and in Syria. This is another threat that Israel has to deal with. It does not want to see a war of attrition, does not want to see more threats on Israel in the coming months. Yes, Israel has managed to make great achievements over this war, really eliminating the threat of Hamas almost completely. But we need to remember there are still 50 Israeli hostages at the hands of Hamas. There is still no political solution that Israel can agree to. I can remind you that this entire war started on October 7th as Israel was nearing normalization with Saudi Arabia. That is also something that is very important for Israel. Should this war with Iran come to an end, we are expecting to see a development on that front as well. And that is another reason why Israel wants to end this war and still has to show that it is responding to the violation.
Okay, in conclusion, let me ask you this final question, and before I let you go, Guy. Like you said, that Israel wants, a quick resolution as far as this conflict is concerned. Do not want another long-drawn Gaza sort of a situation, when it comes to the hostilities with Iran. Are we expecting soon to hear from the Prime Minister, as it was declared earlier, that Benjamin Netanyahu would be making a statement? And with what has been happening in the last few hours, will he be under pressure at this moment not to come out and possibly announce, a ceasefire till the time there are certain assurances and guarantees that come in from the United States and Iran?
Yes, obviously this violation catches Prime Minister Netanyahu at a very sensitive time. He was expected to speak to the public. We eventually did get an official statement from the government about the beginning of the ceasefire that came before the violation. Now I can tell you that all ministers were instructed not to give any interviews to the media, obviously not wanting to inflame the situation even further, not to say things that would harm or jeopardize the chances of renewing this ceasefire. Nonetheless, we will see the reaction. It's hard to see the Israeli jets not striking something, at least symbolically, in Tehran to show that Israel would not accept more of such violations.
Guy, very quickly, before I let you go, let me also ask you this. Is there a sense that because United States, got involved and then wanted to get out of this situation, so it was not only just an off-ramp for Iran, what happened yesterday with their, attacks on the United States bases in Qatar and other places. Is there a sense in Israel that US also wanted to get this off-ramp, get off this situation, and that is why they hurried into this ceasefire announcement without possibly looking at the ground realities?
Absolutely. Look, President Donald Trump announced that he is not looking to start new wars, and yet he found an opportunity in the fact that Iran prolonged the negotiations for a new nuclear deal with Israel, beginning this escalation, and eventually this was a good solution for Trump as well to just destroy those major nuclear facilities. Nonetheless, he wanted a quick end to this war that was a mutual interest of Israel and Iran at that stage, and that is and it does raise the question as to why Iran chose to fire those missiles, jeopardizing this ceasefire that it seems like all sides wanted right now.
No, you're not.
Guy, thank you so much for speaking to us here on NDTV. That's, Guy Azrial, who was he's a correspondent with I-24, speaking to us, trying to give us a sense of what is happening, as far as the political understanding of this crisis is concerned. But before I go across to Divya, once again, very quickly, let me tell you that at this moment, in fact, after the clearing of operation from this building, which took a direct hit, is being done, and this building behind me here in Beersheba stands a testimony to the cost of war that has been inflicted on the people of Israel, and I'm sure the people of Iran, where retaliatory strikes from Israel has also taken place in the last 12 days of hostilities between both these regional powers. Divya, back to you.